Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to the live shows, the live streams of the EU versus virus hackathon and matchathon.
And we got a very special guest with us today that I'm super excited to talk to. This founder of Prezi.
Who's used Prezi?
I've used Prezi. Yes.
As well. If you've used Prezi,
yes, tag yourself below.
Tag yourself below, and we're going to get some free membership over to you. I'm just kidding. We haven't agreed that with Adam.
So Prezi was founded in 2009 and has now over 100 million users.
Wow.
Big community all across the world. But of course, so we're super excited, Adam, to talk to you about your journey of founding Prezi and how it became a wonderful success and all these kinds of things.
3.5 billion views.
Wow. Yeah.
They've raised money from Axel and Spectrum and even TED conferences, right? So they're doing something right. And you know, the team, 3 co-founders who have met at different points over their journey. But the startup's from Hungary. It's one of the leading startups in Europe, and it's been around for over a decade, which is unique in the startup industry, right? That, like I said in a previous stream, you might as well have been around for 100 years in the tech sphere, because a lot has changed. So Adam's going to share some thoughts on where we are now as well with COVID and the future of that as a tech veteran and long-standing contributor to the European startup ecosystem from 2009. Should we kick it off? Should we kick it off?
Yes.
Let's get him in.
Yeah.
Let's welcome him in like the only way we know how to. We want everyone at home to give a massive welcome by giving a big clap. A big clap. In the comments, right? You can do that. You can send an emoji of a clap. You can click clap. You can like. You can say 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Adam, welcome to the call. Adam Somlai-Fischer, all the way from Hungary, CEO and founder of Prezi. My man, how are you?
Thank you, guys. This is so exciting, and I love that you're organizing this and for everybody joining. It's fantastic that you guys are building new products, new experiences, new companies, because I think these really bring great value to the world, especially in these times of change. I'm really well, thank you. I mean, despite all the global challenges, I'm personally fine with family here. Yes, I'm Adam from Hungary. I'm doing design and innovation of Prezi. I'm one of the co-founders, not the CEO. That's Peter Arvai. And we have 3 co-founders, but I'm going to talk a bit about how that matchmaking happened between us, because I think that's one of the magical spices of any startup, really.
Before we get to that, take us back to the beginning. So there's one thing I've always been curious about is, you know, have you been creating companies since you were 5 years old? Were you selling lemonade to your neighbors, or you know, you grew up in Hungary, in Budapest? Did you grow up in an entrepreneurial household?
Partly, yes. I think it's more. I have this very deep drive of doing creative things since I was tiny, more like an inventor. Like I always invented things, like a secret elevator to hide my chocolate, that my father and brother don't steal it, because I always kept it, and it had a little alarm on it, so when they try to steal it, it went. So it's, you know, it's
how old were you? How old were you when you were inventing this secret chocolate hiding elevator?
7. That's like 7.
Wow.
So, you know, more the inventor kind of guy, and I think that really carried me throughout. I did study architecture in Budapest and then in Stockholm in Sweden, thanks European Union and Erasmus. And that's where I graduated in the end. And kind of, you know, I always got really passionate about inventing new things that are interactive, tangible, or visual. And press a button here now so I get a bit more visual, if you don't mind.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm going to tell this story, but before that, so just a few pictures about my background, because not all companies have been started by MBAs or computer science graduates, okay? So for many of you who don't come with that background, if you want to do something disruptive, you have a chance that if you bring something from the outside, it can be a big value. So being driven with that urge of innovate and change things, and that I kind of ended up in the media art scene, which I always loved, like doing augmented reality experiences with volumetric brain renderings. That has been touring a lot in Scandinavia in like 2005-ish. So it's very old. We're taking pictures of how the Wi-Fi looks like, which is actually very beautiful.
How Wi-Fi looks like?
Yes. Wi-Fi is radio. Like radio is like light. You can actually see with Wi-Fi. And we thought, because it's so important for us, we should really have a look That's how it looks like. I mean, it's very blobby and blurry, but it does look like something. So, you know, that's my background. None of these, of course, became mainstream products with 100 million users. This is a niche interest, right? But that kind of what happened is that showing these projects, I had to do presentations. I built a personal presentation tool. No editor, no startup plans, no business plans, just for myself, nobody else. Okay, it's like this is how I present. And then in 2008, the previous financial crisis, if anyone remembers, now we'll have the next one, unfortunately, but you can still start companies. So I met these guys. That's CEO Peter Arvai, co-founder, CTO, and me. And I think on the matchmaking aspect of this, what was quite special that I really have, and I still have this urge to do something new and innovative. But I actually never cared how many people use it. Like, you know, once I did it, I'm satisfied. Like, hey, I did it. It's new and it's original, like typical artist. Then Peter, our CEO, like the only thing that he cares about is global impact. New idea, old idea, well, it should work. It should have an impact. So like, and then you know, we were both dreamers, and then our CTO was like a more structuring us kind of guy. And when we did our matchmaking, we really understood that we really complement each other, that we have different skills and we are at the same time honestly, intrinsically curious and respecting of the other skills. So once that happens, that you know you have complementing skills, but you actually respect that other skill. It's not just like, I don't know that you should do it. Then magic can happen. And like,
Adam, quick question on that, because you know the age-old startup rhetoric is to have a complementary team, right? So you shouldn't have three of the same people, basically.
Yes.
But in terms of, so you've just mentioned the complementary skill sets you three had. What were the skill sets, or at least the moral compasses that were consistent? Because you should also have similar goals and similar ambitions as well.
That's
right?
a great question. Thank you.
What were those for you?
Yeah, we knew that it's what is not. Actually, it was not wealth and getting rich. Might be surprising because a lot of businesses start in that premise, and we all knew that we never want to have a big black card. We never want to do that thing like the typical European entrepreneur, maybe Eastern European entrepreneur, like shady, wealthy, overusing their powers. That was never our interest. We were really passionate about, I mean, of course, doing something meaningful and big, but you know, once we saw the potential with Prezi, we thought that this is fun. This makes people happy when they work. This makes people more effective when they communicate, and it would be really cool to create a new format. You know, so that's, you know, it's kind of an, yeah. I think that was, and I mean, we actually did sit down and talk for 2 days before we decided and agreed and signed that we have these shared values in life. That made it work.
Thank you.
All right, and then of course, I mean, we still, you know, had to start somewhere, so we opened our first office, like any company. You know, it was one room, one big table in the center.
A couple of developers.
Yes. No, I think what is maybe less obvious, but I think it was still the right thing. That, I mean, the core idea of presenting like this was ready, so we tried to do everything as really fast. This is our first website, logo really unprofessional by today's standards.
And what date is this now? Are we still in 2008?
Yeah, this is still 2008.
Had you raised money at this point? Because you obviously, you know, you'd come up with this concept. So this is all bootstrapped right now at the beginning.
Yes,
right? So
yeah. So what we did, two things. We started to create manually one by one presentations that look like this, and we sold for a lot of money for like big company events, etc. Like very cool visuals, and that was really good enough to sustain the company for a while. And then I think at the same time we were really focused, of course, to see if this is something real. And what we did, I remember Peter calling on Skype random companies all over Europe, in Italy, in Switzerland, and trying to sell this product, which didn't exist yet. But at least we knew that, is there at all any interest to have a better presentation tool? Like, you know, you have all these cool ideas and you go out and you're like, that's nice, but I mean, what I have is okay, so I don't give you money. So we actually knew beforehand that people would pay a lot of money to stand out, you know, from their peers who use mostly slides.
And this is sort of your testing phase, right? So this is you were doing some beta testing effectively, right? And seeing what the customer actually wanted and needed. Yes. And I think that's a lot of the phases. That's a phase where a lot of the startups from the the last Matchathon and Hatchathon are in right now. They're in that, they've got an MVP, a minimum viable product,
Yes.
that they're now testing in the market, right? And I think this is testament to say that it's very important to see what the customers want and don't want, right? What they're willing to pay for and not pay for, what should be free and what should be behind a paywall.
I think one learning that I can add to that, and it does not apply, of course, to all products, that if you have a product that lets your customer create something that should have an impact on their business, I mean, in our case, it's a presentation tool, but it can be data visualization, it can be anything, you can actually detach all that hard work of creating an easy-to-use user experience and just test the differentiated output directly for your customers. And if they get happy, like, if I could do this myself, I would be so successful and happy, then you have that learning maybe even much faster than if you did the whole thing, end to end, which is a lot of work, of course. And I don't know, this is like first publication, Hong Kong PC Magazine. We got 3 out of 5 points.
Actually,
why you feel like it's good? Yeah, we're so proud, like, oh, Hong Kong PC Magazine.
yes, Hong Kong of all places.
But how important is that actually? A lot of startups get bogged down in these awards, right? And there's an award for everything, everywhere, all the time. And there's an age-old example of startups pitching to investors with, we won the Hong Kong Best, pamphlet award 2020. I mean, is that important?
I agree with you. I don't think those have, because they are, I mean, they're never about the market, right? They're about some predictions. Maybe some people with experience think that this might work, but they probably don't really need that product, so they don't really know. None of us know. I mean, these things matter because it makes you happy, but it shouldn't be your focus. I agree with you. Now, these things was important for us because, I mean, this wasn't a startup magazine. This was a PC magazine. They reviewed software. So they didn't care if it was a startup or Europe or Hungary. It was like, these tools I can use and pay for. If it's good, I give it a plus. So this is a bit of a market thing for me. But I fully agree with that challenge that we have, that with too many startup competitions, startup competition participants, you should, I mean, it does give, of course, tremendous value, but you should always keep sight on the market and the people.
But this is not a startup competition, though, is it? This is this is a call to action, right? To build, to create against COVID. We're not going to cut you off just yet. Don't worry. Back to you, mate.
Cool. Okay, now the next thing I think in our journey was that I think many of us come up with products and ideas. It's kind of something intrinsic, and we don't fully understand why it resonates with people. Of course, we have ideas and we can say it, but then we hear the judges respond to something else that we were the most excited about. Then we see the market actually resonating with something slightly different than what we thought. Like, so there's this really key process of learning that you can actually, before you can build a company that starts to become sustainable and successful and really growing. And to me, this is actually two things. There is this whole culture thing, which is like how you build a company, the teams, etc. And actually, there is just as much about understanding your product, which does mean that you have to keep changing it, but kind of understanding maybe the market where you want to land your product and have that dialogue. If you have a disruptive product, it will change the market. So it doesn't mean you just do interviews and listen and respond, but it is a dialogue with people like this one right now, right? And there, I think here's just a few learnings for me that. So one thing I always knew, I mean, I come from architecture degree and art. To me, these abstract concepts that you should communicate visually with space. For example, there is this notion of the visual memory that even my PIN codes, I always remember by their shape. And if I travel and if the numbers are upside down, I'm almost like, oh, what's my PIN code? Right. Yes, so a lot of us remember. Yeah, it happens to so many of us. So like, oh, I remember that part. It was in the book in the corner, but I don't remember what it was when I'm on the exam. So these things are very common. And I think this is one of the values I always got passionate that, I'm telling a story, it has different visual parts, and you actually can remember by its location, not only the content. And this really helped. And then the other thing I knew that, this whole notion, I never actually like slideshows that much because I always enjoy seeing the big picture and making my own judgment what matters. And that's kind of a well-done Prezi does for you, that, the structuring of information is just, it can be much better. Now, this I knew, but what I didn't know that, like, for example, all this zooming that we talked about, that, you guys used at school maybe, and people were like, this is cool because it's zooming. And we had to accept that, I mean, it actually matters so much to people that, they look special on stage, which is true for all of us. So we don't mind it. At the same time, we also understood that, with all this zooming, the other thing I can do, like in a very typical presentation situation, you actually, you see this very busy slide and you don't know where to look and you lose the attention of your client audience, blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, I mean, if I can actually zoom to the part that matters, then everything else is outside, then I focus your attention. So it has a lot to do with actually being effective. And then the last thing, which is kind of the real magic and where this comes from. The truth is, I did the original version because I was too lazy to prepare like proper presentations. I wanted a big map and have a discussion with the audience and just zoom what's interesting, like a little bit what we're doing right now with the conversation. So this whole notion that instead of being kind of chained to that structure of a story that you thought yesterday will resonate with the audience today. And if you see losing interest, there is nothing you can do. You just press next, and they're just fading away. So rather, just listen. You guys smiling, then I keep talking. If you stop smiling, then I zoom out and shut up. So there is this whole notion of engaging in a real conversation, which we, and this, being cool on stage that resonated with tech speakers, etc. The last one really resonated with the business segment, because in a sales talk, you really have to listen to who you pitch to and respond to them. And salespeople really love that interactivity of Prezi. So, as you learn about your product, there's a lot of things.
Adam, just before you move on, actually, you deal with, effectively making presentations in a sexier, smoother, more interactive way, right? That's the bread and butter of what you do. We live in a world that's completely changed now. The tech industry, like you've mentioned, we love our events, right? Slush, Tech Barbecue, Oz Innovation Week, you name it. There are so many events all the time to go to, anything from 500 people to 15,000 people. Now, and how those are done is, you go on the stage, you go, and if you look to your left, and right now that has all changed, right? This virtual online world has now started. Just a question on that. I'm a public speaker. I host all the big conferences. So does Ilya too. We do that. She has a podcast. I have some shows, a live show as well. So we're good on stage and we enjoy being on stage and we like to play with the audience. Now that has gone, right?
Yes,
so how do you think the landscape will change in presenting topics and themes going forward? Because now we're on this thing, and if I were to share my slides now, that's very 2D, right? Because I can go, yeah, and then you won't see me, and it's not as interactive. I can't make a joke to the audience and hear the audience. How do you, as sort of one of the founders of a new age presentation making, think the future of events online will be done?
So I think this actually leads to this notion that I have to admit that there is a chance that we can even create something more memorable and special than what events had been. So I always went to, like yourself, I've been speaking a lot, really enjoy that, going to conferences. And I think, for example, TED is one of our investors. They are really good at this. I've been to many TEDs. And if you look at the TED Speaks online, a lot of them use Prezis, but you barely see the Prezis because they show the faces. The human element, that person that really identifies that idea with you, that you can resonate with. And somehow I think that there is this really strong magic in really seeing the human and the ideas as one experience. And if you do it well in our new times of remote everything, of course I miss a lot of things, but there's a lot of things that can get very magical, I think, with this notion, like what we're doing right now, that through technology I can actually blur that distinction. Like I'm here in the corner and I show up, and then you have to look there, and I'm like in the box in the corner, etc. So actually, of course, I have a visual for this. So this.
Of course you do.
Yeah. Okay. This. These are just speakers on an AR conference I've been to. And then I did this talk, and one of the things I see on this picture is something that they see but we don't see. And if you look at all their hands and all their expressions, they actually are they use their full bodies to talk about their ideas. And I have that dream that if we could actually see these ideas somehow, I don't know how they look, but in their minds there is something that they use their bodies to express and we don't see it.
The best one, you got to go back to that though. The best one is the guy going like this, just like Just like a little.
my idea is so tiny.
It's that's an effective, smart idea. But that's like, or I don't know. I think I have a drawing of a child explaining what kind of ice cream he wants, she wants. So I mean, there is definitely magic in that. Now, this is maybe near. I always thought it's going to be far future when augmented reality is becoming very commonplace, but it's happening now. That you can see my ideas at least and me smiling next to them. I think that's one of the things that is something we can do to be more present, and then being interactive on stage is very hard because there's like 1,000 people and you're really stressed. You have one button, but right now, I mean, even though we can have a lot of viewers, I am talking to you guys and I don't mind clicking around and being interactive. So there is another benefit that these discussions can become more personal, and yet they are very scalable. So they can be just as engaging to many people like a conference talk is from the backseat.
Because that's one challenge now we have as well, is you just mentioned when we're live, I always split the audience into sections. I get them to shout out, I interact, I try to make jokes. Usually they fail, but it's funny because I tried to make a joke anyway, right? But you get the feedback, right? The live feedback. Whereas right now, Uri and I are looking at you lovely people at home, trying to interact with you. So, some of the ways that we do that is to say right now, if you have an idea of how to interact live, write it right now in the comments below. Now, that's something that we're learning to do. Tag your flag. We're trying everything within the dashboard that Facebook allows. You can post an emoji, right?
Yes,
you can do all these kinds of things. Ultimately, I'm looking forward to seeing where virtual conferencing is going to go. To allow people to, for example, vote now. Here's the poll. You can live vote. Facebook won't allow that yet, but in the future maybe they will. But if you're live,
Slido is a very nice European startup, and they do that live polling.
They do. Slido. We use them actually for the hackathon. Some of the sessions. Yeah. Thanks, Adam.
No, I mean, just from our times, I have heard this on my children's classroom, like, now everybody turn off your microphone unless I'm calling your name, tells the teacher. This is a very strange mix of the classroom, the new, the old teacher, the young kids, and technology. And so we're learning this, and I'm sure we're going to find some really interesting ways of doing this more together. So there's actually, I talked a bit on like ideas and producting. There's this human element, which is very key, building a culture for a company. And there's two things of course, you want to have global impact. So I put this nice globe in the center, but there is something to get there. And then once you have a little bit of that, I think there is something to give back. And the two notions that I would love to share are mostly about, I forgot to put the background there, so I'm just going to use 40%. So this guy is Ed Lee. He was the previous mayor. He sadly passed away recently of San Francisco. And I was with him promoting entrepreneurship in Mexico City. And the reason it was me, that I'm not American. And he wanted to go with somebody to Mexico to promote entrepreneurship, that it's a global thing. It's done by people from around the globe. And the big number that really resonated with me was that 40% of San Francisco was born overseas.
Wow.
40. I mean, imagine any of the big cities, in Europe, that's nowhere near that ratio. And the Silicon Valley it's about this. It's about the global community of people who want to do things together. And I mean, one more learning there, that we were 2009, tiny limited company in Hungary, Prezi. We got an invitation from the city of San Francisco to move there.
Oh.
They were looking around the world, trying to find interesting tiny companies in remote places, in countries that have, Hungary, come on, please. And telling them, please move here. It's like, imagine that, you're from a big Hungarian capital and you're looking for a tiny company in Peru, and you're telling them, can you move here? So I think that mindset is very special, and I think there's a lot to learn for us there. Now the other is, Now the other is this notion of that I see a lot, this inferiority complex, maybe. I mean, this is stronger from Eastern Europe, but in general, if you're not a native English speaker, this is very, very much present. That somehow people fear that if I want to reach the global market, it's some kind of strange, big, evil person and doesn't have a face. And the truth is, whenever we spoke to like some very cool VCs in San Francisco, even as a tiny company. They haven't asked where we are from for an hour. They didn't. I mean, they were curious once we talked through the ideas and the business, but it never, not the slightest thing changed their perception of the potential and the company. So there is, I think this is just something people, if you still have it, you have to let go. If you have good ideas, people, wherever they are in the world, they're gonna love to work with you. That's all they care about.
Yeah, that's what I like so much with San Francisco myself. Coming there and you feel you're a center of the world, or all the parts of the world are merged in there, and it's a melting pot. At least I feel. It's sort of New York as well, but it's special when it comes to the startup scene, attracting talent from all over the world. So yeah.
Well, actually, one thing I find funny about Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
So like San Francisco, yes, melting pot, metropolis, city, everything, right? Go to Silicon Valley, it's suburbia. You know, like there's Ramona Street, the famous tech street where the original Apple is. It's like no building above 2 stories. You know, and I got there and I was like, what? Like, where are the flying cars? But of course, they're in Mountain View, and that's where like the Google campus and all that stuff is. It's just a funny paradox that you're in San Francisco and it's like, you know, action, founders. You walk past anyone on the street and you hear things with people whispering Tesla and Google and Twitter. And then you go to Silicon Valley and you're thinking it'll be that times 10, and it's quiet town. It looks like your backdrop, actually. It looks like a beautiful redwoods.
Yes. I mean, it's a very, very dense place and lots of different things happen there.
Yeah.
Certainly, it is, I mean, the general mindset is they won't mind where you're coming from. Wherever you have that meeting, if you have that meeting there, then just don't mind. They love your ideas. Okay, now the other thing that I find quite important, that, I mean, all of us in tech, especially who have a product where is interest, especially if you actually get some venture capital money, this is a highly, highly privileged position in the world today. Like you graduate in tech and you make so much money as a teacher does when they retire, right? So I think it's kind of our duty to try to give back as much as we can, because a balanced, stable democracy and a balanced, stable society is our shared interest. It's much better to be a successful person in a successful country than it is in an unsuccessful one. So we did spend a lot of time and money on like ethical entrepreneurship, NGO, and you know, helping the Pride and trying to change the mindset around feminism and you know, LGBT plus issues, and also with the local Roma community. We have a lot of works together. So I think these things are important because in the long run they make everything better. So please don't forget that. And I think you also attract in more interesting people if you care about the world, not just your tech. And then end of this journey, and then I say a few words about the other journeys. Like, so we have 100 million users, offices in Riga, Berlin, San Francisco, Budapest. And I think one of the things that I learned, that, I mean, this is some of the speakers. This was the moment when I believed that Prezi will be real. This is a 70-year-old Canadian firefighter, and he sent an email that, thank you guys, I feel creative again. But, you know, he was sincerely happy, and with our product, we made somebody happy who's like really distant from us culturally and physically. That seemed like this is not just another funny project. This can be big. And then kids using it all over the world, etc., which was super exciting for me. But I think the big learning was that, you know, many of us can do very cool technologies, but I think a big challenge is that it has to resonate with people, and you have to make it approachable for them, so it can become a format, a language, or something that, you know, they find meaningful for them and it's easy enough for them. And that's a very hard balance, because the more time you spend hacking around, the more crazy and magical and fast things you can do. It's very easy to like lose that connection to the rest of the world of how much simple things is what people are looking for, not complicated things. So that was where we are with Prezi, and we have a lot more in that direction, but we don't see that yet because it's in the future. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, are you finished with your presentation? Can I move on to another subject? Like how Prezi has
some pictures about this thing I'm using now, but we can do that later. I'm really happy to do it more interactive. Yes.
Cool.
Please ask.
Yeah. Okay. So how has the Corona situation affected Prezi? Has it been more traffic, or since people are sitting home having presentation like you are having now, or?
Yeah, it's a very, very curious situation. So partly I mean, most of the meeting room presentations have been canceled in the world. That's one part of the story. The other is that during this decade, with all the 100 million users creating presentations, now one of our keys to the success was our business model that Prezi is free if you publish your presentation on Prezi.com. That's free. And if you have secrets, then you have to pay. That's really the summary of our business model. And what this allowed us that, you know, we have like so many Prezis about almost anything in the world that we're like the Alexa ranking on site visits, the top 300 to 500 websites in the world.
Wow.
And in this situation, so what happens now? Some parts of the business are shrinking a little bit because live meetings are not there. Some is growing because people are viewing much more presentations online because they spend more time in front of the computer. And then, you know, this technology I'm using, which I mentioned with a few words of how ideas can be mixed with visuals, which we called Prezi AR like 2017. We actually just launched a new product on this in like November, I think, which we called Prezi Video, which is this like super easy to use interface, and you can do these recorded videos or live visuals like I'm doing right now. And you know, this guy here is one of the most exciting virologists from Hungary. He regularly posts these videos on Facebook and people love it. He explains the current situation with visuals and he talks his face and the visuals together, make it very powerful. Like there's this little video here of lots of teachers. Okay, this is the prototype version.
Here we go, testing live.
I'm always doing that. Okay, it works. Okay, so these are just different teachers using this Prezi Video product we just launched for remote education, doing like flipped classrooms, teaching from home, and it became very, very popular very fast right now. It started okay in November, people get it why it's fun, but right now suddenly it just exactly for the times we have today. Which I mean, it's very hard for me. I always loved education. I love my own studies, and I'm always grateful when people in education make an extra effort and do something powerful for their students. So of course, obviously, Prezi Video is built for remote teaching and remote work, and so is of course the interest for Prezi Video resonating with the times of this change. Now, even if obviously things will get. Some things will go back to normal, as we all know, like we want to go out and meet our friends. And the truth is some things might change. A lot of us actually love remote learning. We don't have to get up at 7 in the morning to commute to school. You know, some of that physical presence is great, and some of it is actually not really necessary. So I think a future might hold us a blend of what we found useful in this situation, and then, of course, bring back the things that we really, really miss. So Prezi and COVID, it's an interesting shift.
What has been the biggest obstacles for you during this journey?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's partly. Maybe the word I would choose is empathy. Like I really find it an important human quality, but you just never have enough. Empathy is needed to understand your customers and the market and the students and the teachers, why they struggle, what they like, and you know, even if you think you do, then you are probably wrong. You need empathy to build a great company, because what really makes people motivated and drives them, you know, sometimes you have to see beyond the surface of what people say to build a great culture and a great company that can do some powerful things together. So, I mean, I understand this is not an obstacle. I think the obstacle is our capacity to respect this and improve it and learn about it, partly because, you know, it's not in our studies. It's an abstract thing that you should just be good at. And the truth is you can learn and you can be much better at understanding each other and humans. And I think that's something that we should all be very mindful about, especially when you come from tech.
Let's see your new tech. Adam, show us that last presentation you wanted, and then we have some final questions.
Oh, I just did. That's fine. This is what I wanted to show.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah. Well, then what I wanted to ask you is very much what I asked you at the beginning. You know, you are a very successful founder. You've become financially successful. You've become business successful. You have 300 employees or so. You've raised almost $100 million in VC funding, right? You've done all the dream things. I'm not sure if you're a billion-dollar business. Are you a unicorn?
You know, you never know until somebody buys you, and we're a private company, so.
Are you for sale?
Will you be at some point?
I mean, the way we think of this and always have is that, you know, again, so we're not here for the money, but to have that meaningful impact. If there is a partnership with a company with whom this meaningful impact can be much more meaningful, I think we will be very happy to do that because we want to bring that magic and value to our users. Now, being alone, independent company, we have to do everything ourselves, you know, from acquisition, you know, so, and it's fine and we love it, but the truth is when you partner, some of these can be shifted and you can focus more on an aspect. At the same time, being independent also lets you be really free and do the things you believe in. So it's a balance. It's not an obvious question.
And Adam, we have a lot of entrepreneurs watching at home right now. And what is your message to them? Because bear in mind, I'm in retrospect of the current hackathon and matchathon. So 3 weeks ago, a lot of these people never knew each other. They've met only online, so most of them haven't met. They've come up with ideas. They've thrown some out, picked some better ones, thrashed them down, pivoted, changed, went back, and started again. Now there are 122 teams watching this right now at home, wherever they are around Europe and internationally. With that in mind, is there a lesson you've learned in the last 11 years as an entrepreneur with Prezi that you would love to share with them?
So there's actually a little method, a trick, a little exercise, I think, that's really useful for teams that I've been doing as a workshop leader, and I always found it resonated really well. So come to your virtual meeting with some really good ideas prepared of what you guys should be doing. And then present each other's ideas, not your own. Take the person to the right from you or on the little screens to the left of you, whatever, and with all wholehearted energy and excitement, present that idea to the others as if that was the one that you want to succeed and do. They will learn that there is so much in their ideas that they knew originally. You will misunderstand and put in some extra thing. They will be pleased. You will learn that there is so much magic in sharing and building upon each other's ideas. Now, what I've seen in teams is that I think ideas are this very special thing that partly we should really treasure them as a whole, as a thing that if you have good ideas, write them down, don't forget them. But when they are in use, you should really be careless about them. You should never take pride whose it is. And if something comes which is somewhat better, they should build upon each other. So especially now that you guys are teams and matchmaking, really using each other's brain, intellect, experience, learning, emotions, feelings, that you can build something together can be much, much more powerful than if you do it alone. And I know people say teaming, etc., but the truth is this is hard to do. You have to be vulnerable, give up yourself, open up yourself to the others. And then together, I think you can succeed much better.
Very thoughtful, Adam.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Last questions?
I do. I have plenty. I want to summarize as well.
Yeah.
So final one for me then, Adam, is were you born an entrepreneur or did you learn it?
I think the funny thing is here, I partnered with an entrepreneur. I'm an inventor, it's different. I don't care if you use my product. I'm already happy that I get to use it. But I learned to partner and respect and love my CEO, co-founder, partner, entrepreneur. And that's my answer.
And it sounds like we've come full circle because the real premise to this as well is in reflection to the teams that have been created in such a short period of time, right? And I mean, this term entrepreneur, these founders and CEOs, I mean, there are more founders and CEOs in the world than there ever have been because there are so many startups today out there, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, many of them are great. Some of them are just startups for startups' sake, right? We believe that the 120 and many of that come out of this hackathon are not. They are there for, crisis sake, actually. But you make a very good point about you know, partnering with the right people. And if you're not the business person, know that you're not that, right? Like you just mentioned, I mean, you're the inventor, you're the product guy. You don't care about anything as long as people use your product, right? Amazing. So you should partner with a business person and also maybe a marketer, right? Have these complementary skill sets within your founding team and know that you don't have that skill set. The worst thing is someone who thinks they should have the final say on everything.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Any words from you before I sum things up?
Adam, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. We could have spoken to you for hours, I think, but we're running out of time, and it's been great seeing you with the amazing presentation and the forest in the background. I loved it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. So just to sum things up, from the man who invented the chocolate hideaway elevator at 7 years old to the man today, you know, who's in his mid-40s, he's founded a company that is no doubt worth hundreds of millions of euros and has employed, you know, probably over 1,000 people over the lifetime of the business, probably more actually, 4 offices around the world, 3.5 billion views on their products, 100 million users, which is incredible to get that kind of usage today. The only kind of companies that get that are like TikTok and on Instagram, right? You know, so you're up there with and those are daily, well, maybe not daily active, but probably monthly active users as well. Probably very high up within that, right? You know, so we can speculate. The things that I took away from your conversation, to sell that to our team right now and the teams that have been formed, tech for good is what I'm saying. I heard that from you. And what I meant by that is you built knowledge sharing into your core business model because your service is free if you share your slides, right? So
yes.
you've designed your company around people sharing free and thoughtful information. That's just profound. So I can go into Prezi and I can assume do a keyword search of, say, biomedical services, right? And I could find all the presentations. And then I'd imagine they're upvoted, right?
Yes, and you can actually reuse many of them. The default license is remixable. So you can just even take parts of it and remix it.
Wow, I did not know that.
Super cool, huh?
That's super smart, super clever, yeah.
And again, we want to be a bit futuristic on predictions here, but, you know, it looks like the future, you know, my worry is that, you know, will we be put out of a job, or because we're on stage people, energy, large audiences. I thrive, the bigger the audience, the better, right? For me, now I'm dealing with many more people actually, because it's virtual, this is scalable, but I don't have that feedback. I'm sitting down, not standing up, worrying about how to make presentations engaging when we are sitting down and I'm clicking or sharing a screen. Well, we know that Prezi has a solution for that, so that's a cool service to see. I might use that for myself too. There it is. Perfect timing.
To the questions.
But also from your experiences as the guru over 11 years of making presentations better, the future of presentations is all about the human element.
Yes.
Right? You said that the TED Talks that you support, when TED put the videos out, they don't zoom in on the presentation, they zoom in on the people's faces. Because you want to see faces, right? Humans react to faces more than anything. So don't worry, the human element isn't going to be taken away. If we can enhance that using AR, artificial reality all around us, augmented reality, sorry, that would be a complement to presentations today. And last words, empathy. Empathy is a running theme we've heard from the presenters throughout these live streams, that have empathy with the people you're speaking to. You don't know what they're going through. None of us really have a solution. We're just getting by as we can. These are not normal work environments, right? So just go about your business, go about your social life, go about your personal life with empathy. With empathy. So Adam, I'm going to say thank you so much from our live studio for the EU versus virus matchathon, coming at you live from Oslo, Norway. My name is Matt C. Smith, and this is Adam. You're a star. This is not over. We need to hear more from you.
Yes, we agree.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to cue the music up in the only way we know how. Any last message for the teams, Adam?
Please teach each other your own native languages, saying hi and saying goodbye. It's just very, very nice. So I don't know fully. Tack så mycket and hej då. Does this work?
Wait, tusen tack. Tack så mycket Swedish. Close enough. Well done. Yeah. And in Budapest, what is it? In Hungarian?
Sia. It's easy. You just say Sia. Both ways.
Sia.
Yeah.
See Adam. Yeah. And see you in an hour for the next live stream at 4 p.m. and for the closing ceremony at 6 p.m. Thank you from me and Uria. Bye-bye and ciao for now.